Once upon a time, Dr. Phil was America's therapist, a pop culture powerhouse who built an empire from daytime drama and self-help slogans. But when his show ended, he tried to reinvent himself in the one place guaranteed to destroy reputations faster than bad advice: MAGA media. And today, that gamble has left him broke, irrelevant, and buried in lawsuits. Because when you sell your brand of helping people to Trump's cult of cruelty, you're not saving anyone, you're diagnosing your own downfall. Let's start with how Dr. Phil went from daytime TV to playing pretend law and order patriot alongside Trump's enforcers. There he was, turning human suffering into a MAGA reality show, chasing ratings instead of compassion. It wasn't therapy. It was exploitation dressed up as patriotism. And what makes it worse? Not long before that, Dr. Phil had no problem diagnosing Trump himself. On Jimmy Kimmel Live, years before he cozied up to Trump, Dr. Phil actually sounded like a professional diagnosing the very behavior he'd later defend. Kimmel asked him whether he thought Donald Trump lacked diplomacy, and Phil didn't hesitate. He said yes. Then came the follow-up. Did Trump have an impulse control problem? Again, Phil said absolutely. Kimmel pressed a little harder. Could Trump see things only from his own point of view? Dr. Phil chuckled and agreed, saying that's exactly how Trump prefers it. And then came the punchline. Phil hinted that if you looked up certain personality disorders in a psychology textbook, you might find traits that sound awfully familiar. In that moment, Dr. Phil wasn't defending Trump. He was describing him. A man driven by ego, impulse, and the need to dominate every conversation. The irony? A few years later, Phil would pretend none of this ever happened. So, what changed? Opportunity. When his ratings fell and Oprah's halo faded, Dr. Phil saw Trump's base, angry, loyal, and easy to monetize, and thought, why not cash in on that? But the scheme didn't just fail, it imploded. According to a scathing report from Slate, Dr. Phil's MAGA empire, called Merit Street Media, was supposed to be his comeback. Just what the doctor ordered. When Dr. Phil signed off on his talk show in 2023, he pivoted to MAGA media. It's not working so well for him. Phil McGraw has earned himself a star position in this game show host presidency. Since the start of President Donald Trump's second term, the ex-psychologist has stationed himself within the White House's content creation apparatus as both a first-hand witness to immigration and customs enforcement raids and as a sneering critic of the Americans protesting Israel's mass bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Unlike fellow Oprah-endorsed TV personality Mehmet Oz, McGraw doesn't have a cabinet position, but he's been an active, ever-present volunteer for the chief executive, attending RFK Jr.'s swearing-in, brokering the partnership between ICE and New York City's mayor, leading the White House's new Religious Liberty Commission, appearing with the president after the devastating Texas flooding. It feels less like public service than a promotional gambit for McGraw, who's been spotlighting such events and government friends on Dr. Phil Primetime, which is broadcast on his self-helmed right-wing network, Merit TV. At least it was broadcast there until June, when McGraw's post-Dr. Phil venture, Merit Street Media, went on a summer hiatus and laid off dozens of staffers just before it was scheduled to air McGraw's on-the-ground dispatches of the Chicago ICE raids. The short-lived media enterprise was supposed to help transition McGraw from the traditional TV age to the new media economy. Instead, the little-viewed Merit Street Media is now locked in bankruptcy proceedings and in an expensive legal battle with its distributor, Trinity Broadcasting Network, as McGraw attempts to launch yet another media startup. Envoy 2025 could have been Dr. Phil's best and most lucrative year,
the one where he finally transcended the talk show doldrums through a dynamic, self-controlled network catapulting off the MAGA cultural shift. How did it all crash so hard so soon? The lesson that Phil McGraw should learn from this saga is that a rush to embrace the growing right-wing media trends can't work for everyone, even someone as famous as he, since his 90s-era start on Oprah's show. McGraw's key appeal to America lay in his mastery of a particular kind of TV that embraced the intensely personal over the intensely political. No matter how problematic Dr. Phil's encounters and advice may have been, he had a well-honed sense for drawing out the drama of the human condition, inviting Americans to both gawk at and listen to people they may not have heard from otherwise. The fundamentals of MAGA culture, doctrinal in nature and inflexible when it comes to Trumpist loyalty, are of a much different nature than the sideshows that kept some suburban stay-at-home moms hooked to their TVs.
The plan was to rebrand himself as a right-wing cultural warrior, hosting Dr. Phil Primetime from inside Trump's orbit, appearing at the White House, ICE raids, and even Trump's Religious Liberty Commission. But instead of conservative glory, he got canceled by his own audience. By June, the network had gone dark, dozens of staff were laid off, and the channel's viewership sank to a humiliating 17,000 people a week. For context, that's fewer viewers than a mid-level Twitch streamer talking about cats. The reason is simple. MAGA media rewards outrage, not empathy. Dr. Phil spent decades packaging human vulnerability for daytime TV, and suddenly tried to sell dogma and hate to the same crowd. But Trump's movement doesn't reward nuance, it rewards loyalty. And no matter how many ICE raids he filmed or MAGA hats he flattered, viewers saw through it. He wasn't one of them. He was a Hollywood opportunist trying to cosplay as a culture war crusader. That contradiction destroyed him. Dr. Phil's story is the perfect parable of Trump-era celebrity politics. Chase clout, betray your principles, lose everything. He went from Oprah's couch to Trump's trash heap, a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks MAGA fame equals success. Because at the end of the day, if your career depends on Trump's approval, you're not building a legacy, you're signing up for your own cancellation. Follow the channel, turn on notifications, and leave your thoughts below. Let's keep exposing how chasing MAGA gold always ends the same way, in moral and financial bankruptcy.